Hello and welcome to this hot series on Java programming, a series that promises to take you from zero to hero within the shortest time possible. This series is ideal for absolute beginners, intermediate developers, as well as experienced developers because it is going to teach you everything that you need to know about Java programming. This series, we are going to cover quite a number of topics, and therefore it is going to be divided into a series of videos. And I want to encourage that you stick along for all the videos in this particular series. And so that you don't miss any video, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, click on the notification bell so that you can be notified anytime that we release a video. You can also like our video so that the video can be recommended to your friends who can also benefit. So the course content that we are going to cover in this particular series include introducing ourselves to what is Java and the tools that we need. We are going to write basic programs in Java, and this one will actually be covered in this part one of this series. Then we shall talk about data types, then identifiers. In this case, we shall talk about variables and functions. We'll also talk about methods and how they are created. Then we shall go ahead and talk about control structures. We shall talk about arrays. We shall talk about data structures in Java. And when we are talking about this, we shall now dive into the OOP aspect of Java and discuss the various OOP concepts that are available in Java, including inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, and how you implement them. Then after that, we shall go now to the advanced part of Java and talk about creating graphical user interfaces. Then we shall be able to code event driven in these graphical user interfaces so that they can be able to do what we want them to do. Because many of the software that we interact with today in the market has a graphical user interface and then there is a backend code. So we are going to learn exactly how to do that. Then we shall talk about how you connect a Java graphical user interface to MySQL database. And we are going to use MySQL because it's the most popular database as of now. And in this case, we are going to use a library known as Java Database Connector. After that, we'll work on a real-world project so that you can be able to see how the skills that you are learning in this particular series can be cascaded into an actual project. Then we learn how to deploy this project. How do you convert this project from just a mere piece of code into an executable file that you can share with your friend, they can install in their computers, and then they can use it later. Then still under that, we shall talk about version control in Java applications. How do you do one version, you update to a second version, a third version, without losing the basic concept that you created in the initial first version. So all this we are going to cover it, and I'm going to make this video as ideal as possible so that it can cater for the interest of those three categories of developers. Now, we'll start by first introducing ourselves to Java. We have a candid discussion of what Java is. Then we write basic programs, and that will mark the end of this video. And then in the subsequent videos, we shall handle the other topics. That is why you must stick along all through these videos so that you cover the entire series altogether. So to start with, what is Java? Java is an object-oriented programming language. We have several programming languages that belong to several programming paradigms. And these programming paradigms, they include what we call procedural programming paradigms, in which programs that belong to it, they follow a step-by-step procedure in doing something, and they follow what is known as a top-to-down approach. We have the object-oriented paradigm, which is what we are dealing with today. We have the event-driven programming paradigm. We have the functional programming paradigm. We have scripting programming paradigm, and so on. But it is good for us to understand that it is very difficult for one programming language to belong to purely a specific programming paradigm. And therefore, when we say that Java is object-oriented programming, what do we mean? We mean that it supports the various concepts of object-oriented, which include objects. Object refers to a real-world entity that has a meaning, and an object must have three main characteristics: an identity, which is a unique name, it must have a behavior, and it must have state. And when we'll be creating objects, we are going to see how exactly these three attributes of an object are implemented. Then we have classes. We have defined objects to be real world entities. Then classes are collections of related objects. So when similar objects come together, objects that have similar characteristics, what they form is a class. Therefore, in a class, what you do is that you define common attributes that objects that are housed within that class must possess. Then we have the second one, or the third one rather, which is known as inheritance. This is where one class inherits the properties of another class. Or put it simpler, objects of a class B acquire the properties of another class A. The class from which properties are acquired is referred to as a base class, or the one that is acquiring the properties is referred to as a derived class. We shall do that practically. Then we have abstraction, which basically refers to presenting to the users only what they need to know and use and hiding the background processing from them. For instance, in this YouTube video, you are provided with this video and then you are able to see it, you are able to subscribe to the channel, you are able to like the video, you are able to comment, but you don't exactly know what happens in the YouTube algorithm in the background. Then we have polymorphism, and this is where an entity has more than one form. Take an example, a human being. A human being could be a father in his family. That human being could be an employee at his place of work. The human being in the eyes of the government is a citizen. And this human being in the eyes of the local tax authority is a taxpayer. In the eyes of their spouse, they are the last of their life. So that is polymorphism, and it appears especially when we are dealing with methods. Then we have modularity. This way you're able to divide a huge program into small subsets that we call modules. Then we talk about Java support event-driven programming. When we talk about event-driven programming, we mean that the actions that a program is doing are influenced by the actions that the user does. For instance, when a user clicks a button, the program reacts in a certain way. When the user inputs text in a text field, the program behaves in a certain way. And many of the software that we see that has a graphical user interface, they are actually event-driven programming. They fall to the event-driven programming paradigm. Even YouTube, the one that you are using, the moment you click on a video and it starts playing, the moment you click the pause button so that you can write the code and it pauses, that is event-driven programming. So let's see more about Java. It was developed by a gentleman known as James Gosling, and this is a gentleman. He was working at Sun Microsystems when he released Java. And the key motivation that made him release Java is the aspect of write once, run anywhere, which is made possible by something known as the Java virtual machine. Java virtual machine makes it possible for you to write a program in a certain PC or certain computer which is using maybe Windows operating system, and that program can be able to execute or run in another different computer that could even be using a different operating system. And this makes Java to be portable and also to be architecture neutral. Java Virtual Machine is the one that actually became the power behind modern web technology. Before then, web technology was not so much huge because you required to create a website that can accommodate to a specific structure in a certain architecture of a machine. But now, when Java Virtual Machine was introduced, you could just create one website and it is accessible to all the other machines. However, we can all agree that JavaScript came later and it has become the most used. But still, in some of the major websites, they still use Java Virtual Machine. Now, going forward, we have several configurations of Java. We have what we call the Java Enterprise Edition, which is basically used to develop enterprise applications such as servlets, Java Server Pages, which are pages that I was talking about, mainly used for websites. Many websites that have heavy traffic prefer to use Java Server Pages, and among other online software. Then we have the Java Micro Edition, which is used for purposes of developing mobile applications. And this is where Android emanated from. That is why those who are Android developers, they consider the syntax of Android and even the approach to doing Android programming is more or less close to what you do in Java. Then we have Java Standard Edition, which is used for creating desktop applications. And this is what we are going to cover in this particular series, the Java Standard Edition, which is going to take you through how you can be able to create a desktop application using Java programming. Having said that, what are some of the tools that one needs in order for them to program in Java? There are three primary tools that require. The first one is known as a Java development kit, and this one contains the necessary tools that you need for you to code in Java. It is this one that contains the type system, which defines the syntax of Java, so that once you miss the syntax, it will be able to give you the syntax error and so on. However, Java development kit alone cannot work, and it needs to be paired with another tool known as the Java runtime environment. In Java runtime environment is basically a software layer that runs on top of your computer's operating system, providing the class libraries and other resources that are specific to the Java program that you have created. It is also good for us to know that JRE comes with an internal Java virtual machine. So you don't really have to install a Java virtual machine. Rather, once you install a JRE, it comes with a Java virtual machine. Further to this, a JRE contains a class loader which helps in loading classes. It also has a bytecode verifier. It also has an interpreter that helps in interpreting your code. When you talk about interpreting your code, we know that Java is a high-level programming language, and thus we need to convert it from high level to machine code. And to do that, we use interpreters. And the key difference between interpreters and compilers is that interpreters convert code from high level to machine code line by line, while compilers take the entire block of code and convert it to machine code. Now, with these two, you still cannot be able to do a very decent job. So you can, some can try to use other editors such as Notepad, and then you run it on command prompt. But for a serious developer, having a good IDE is something that you must do. And you must be very keen when you are choosing the appropriate IDE, because over the internet, many IDEs will be saying that they can do Java programming, but it is upon you as the developer to sit down and decide that now I feel that this IDE is the most ideal one for me. So what can help you to come up with a good IDE is looking at what others are doing. And from that analysis, I can provide you with the following IDEs, Netbeans being the most popular and the one that we are going to use in this particular series. So this is the Netbeans older version. The newer version supported by Apache looks like this. And you can also be able to use Eclipse. Whichever you choose to use here is up to you. Personally, I'll be using Netbeans version 8.1. You can use later versions, and you can be able to download these tools, the JDK and the JRE. You can download them from the Oracle website because currently Java is being maintained by Oracle. The IDE, you can download it from the respective uh, websites. For example, Netbeans, you can download from netbeans.org. Eclipse, you can also do the same. The question is, how do I install these three items? You must have an orderly way of doing them. You start by installing the JDK, followed by the JRE, and then the IDE. If you install the IDE before installing the JDK, you may end up running into trouble. Having said that, take your time, download these three tools, and install them in the order in which they appear. And then we can now go ahead and write our basic first program. I now believe that you have been able to install the requisite tools properly, and congratulations for making sure that you have installed them properly. If you have encountered any challenges in installing the tools, please let me know in the comment section and I'll be glad to help you. So once you have done that, now open your Netbeans. The interface you get depends on the version that you're using. Personally, I'm using version 8.1. So I'll give you a quick tour of this particular version that I'm using over here. And then after I give you this quick tour, you'll be in a position to understand what every element has. So we start with what we are seeing here. This is known as the start page. And this one offers us tutorials on NetBeans. So it will give you some tutorials on the new things that have been listed on Netbeans, shortcuts that you can be able to use, and so on. For you to access these tutorials, definitely you must be connected to the internet. Then on this section over here, this is where our projects are saved. You can see I have quite a number of projects in my work because I've been working with Java for so long. Here, this is known as a navigator. This is the one that we use to navigate our programs. It helps us to know how our program is structured. It creates a tree structure of our program. Then over here, these are shortcuts. For instance, the one that over here, if you hover over it, it enables you to create a new file. This one enables you to create a new project. This one enables you to open an existing project. These ones enable you to save, undo, and so on. Then over here, this one is used for running the project. This one is known as clean and build. We'll use it when we'll be dealing with the GUI applications. And over here, we have so many other tools that you can be able to use. I encourage that you take some time to interact with these tools later. So let us go ahead and create our first project because we don't want to make this series so lengthy so that we don't go the intermediate programmers. So having said that now, let's go ahead. So we have two options. You can come here to file, then click a new project, or you can use the shortcut that I have shown you. So once you click the new project, this is the interface that you get. So make sure that you select Java. If Java is not appearing here, then you know that you never selected an ideal JDK, or you never selected Java when you're installing as a programming language that you would like to use in your NetBeans when you're installing your NetBeans. So go ahead, remove the NetBeans that you have, install it again, and make sure that you select Java. Then, if you're using the newer versions, make sure that you select Java with Maven, and it's going to work very well for you. Then over here, select Java application, and then you can click on next. Here now, we need to give our application or our project a name. When you're giving this project a name, there are some rules that we need to follow. These rules are also known as rules of naming identifiers. Number one, you cannot start with a number. Number two, you cannot put space between the names. Number three, you cannot use some words which we call keywords or reserved words. As programmers, I believe you know what are keywords. For instance, in Java, public is a keyword, private is a keyword, system is a keyword, out is a keyword, and so on. Then also here, you cannot start with an underscore, but you can use an underscore if you desire in internal parts, but not at the beginning of your name. In this case, I'm going to call it, maybe I can call it my tutorial. I can call it Java tutorial 1, Java tutorial part 1, P1. Then you can use this icon to browse where you want to save your work. After that, this is a very important section. Select here so that your IDE will create the main class for you automatically. And then you can click on finish. Once you click on finish, what will happen is that your IDE will automatically create this code for you. And once it has created this code for you, let us first forget about the code. We go to where we have our projects. The project will be created for you, Java tutorial P1. Inside it, we'll have something known as a source package. And inside the source package, you'll have something known as Java tutorial P1. So this is known as packaging. And packaging helps us to organize the different elements that we're using in our project together. These elements could be different classes because Java supports modularity, could be images, could be files, could be even libraries, and so on. So it is important that you make sure that this package has been created properly for you. Inside this package still, we have libraries, and inside the library, you can see we have the JDK. My version is 1.8. So we cannot work if we don't have a JDK here. For now, we only have JDK in this project, but for more advanced projects, you're going to have more libraries, and the number of libraries you have depends on what you want to do with your project. And this is something that is going to be so enticing for you. So having said that now, we can go to our code and see what we have. This is an automatically generated code for you by your IDE. But if you are not using NetBeans, perhaps this code will not be generated for you. Not all parts of this code are relevant, so we'll start by removing the irrelevant codes. This code that appears between these two asterisks and appears in gray in my video here, these ones are known as comments. And comments basically help you to understand what the project is doing or the program is doing or a certain line of code is doing. They are not executable and thus they don't affect your project. so we can comfortably remove them. So once we remove them, we'll be left with the important parts of our code. And now the important part of our codes are here. We start with here, package Java tutorial P1. This is basically the package that has been created for us over here. And this package have defined what it does. It helps us to organize our elements together. And since this is Java programming, any executable line of code must be terminated with a semicolon. Another rule of the thumb that we must remember is that Java is case sensitive, and therefore lowercase and uppercase names may mean two different things. And simple elements such as this public that we have over here, you can see that, or even with this package that you have over here, this is lowercase. If I change it to uppercase, it gives me a syntax error. So we must make sure that we are always putting it in the appropriate case. Then Java is an object-oriented programming language, and therefore, any project that we create in Java must have a class. It doesn't matter whether it's a project to output your name or a project to output a rollout, you must have a class. And in this case, when we were creating this project, we say that we want ID to create a main class for us. It has created a class known as Java Tutorial P1, which is basically linked to our package over here. There are some rules that we need to observe when we are creating classes. In a class in Java, the first letter here must be in uppercase. Other subsequent letters can be in lowercase or in camel case. In this case, this is camel case because J is capital and T is capital. However, the rule of the thumb is that the first letter of a class must be a camel case. Now, a class can be public, can be private, and what defines whether it is public, private, or protected is something known as access levels. And we are going to discuss this later when we'll be dealing with classes and objects. Now, this class begins where we have this opening curly brace and ends where we have this closing curly brace. Inside this class, a class is a container, therefore it can have other elements inside it. Inside it, we have a main method. Those who have programmed in the C family, C and C++, they are aware that all projects in C and C++ must have a main method. And it is in the, whatever is put in the main method is what is executable. So in simple terms, you can say execution starts from the main method. Main method in Java is defined by using public static void main, and then string arguments in parentheses, and then you have an opening and closing curly brace. And these are keywords that are appearing in blue here: public, static, and void. Public because the main method needs to be accessible to all parts of the program. Static because its values are expected, or this main method is expected to remain unchanged all through. Void because it doesn't have a return type. Unlike C, where you need to use a return type, in Java is not mandatory that you use a return type. Main is a keyword to show that's the main method. String because it is going to help us output elements in an output that supports strings. Arguments because it allows you to have so many other arguments. These are square brackets that you can see over here mean that this main method allows you to have an array of elements that you can output it, and therefore it is just showing you that the main method also is a container that can house many things. So that's from where we have this curly brace and where we have this one, and this is where we call the body of the main method. So anything that we want to execute must be put in the body of this main method. Let us start by just creating a basic program that everybody creates when they are learning to program in any programming language, outputting hello world. And this one you can write it as the output statement in Java is system, S is capital, system like that. Then you put a dot. And a little trick that I need to tell you is that if you're not sure about the function that you want to use, just put a dot and it will show you the various functions that go together with that particular keyword that you have put over there. Then you can put out. In my case, I know what I want to use. Then dot print up to that point it will work. But since we want our output to be in a single line, you can, and then the next line should start in a different line, not a continuation of this one. You can use print ln. Ln means line. Then you put an what you call a parenthesis. You open the bracket and you close the bracket. Now, since whatever we are outputting is a string, we put some quotation marks and then we put our statement here, hello world. After we do that, we must terminate with a semicolon. Do not forget that. You must terminate with a semicolon. So after you have done that, you can come here and run your application. Once you run your application, you can see that it has outputted hello world. Perhaps I can minimize this one so that it doesn't hide our code so much. Let us minimize it. Ikuje hapo. So, oh, sorry, I've used Swahili so that it can be fair, but it's good you have learned a word in Swahili. Then, after we have done that now, we can see that we have a program that is executing. So, let us now interrogate this program further. For us to be able to create this program and for us to be able to access these keywords, let's start by for us to be able to edit the program, we needed an IDE, which is Netbeans. For us to be able to utilize these keywords and check for syntax errors and so on, we needed a JDK. For this program to execute, we needed a JRE, and inside the JRE was a JVM. Let us now go further and write another line, perhaps to output, subscribe to the channel, system dot out dot print line, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the channel. And please don't forget to do that, subscribe to the channel. So if we run this again, you can see we have hello world and we have subscribe to the channel. If we remove this ln that appears here, where we have in the first output statement, and we run that again, you can see what happens. The two output statements are connected. This one is not desirable, so let us put our ln over there. In the beginning, we talked about comments. Now, we said that comments are not executable. And in this case, if we put a comment here and say, this will output a statement in quotation marks, in quotation marks, and we run this statement, you can see that doesn't impact on our program. So comments help us to just understand what the program is doing. So there are two ways of putting comments that I want you to know. There is this way, using two slash lines, and this one is used when you're dealing with comments in a single line. So if I enter here, it is no longer a comment, it's going to give us an error. So what can I use if I want to use more than one line to put my comment? You just need to modify this, use one slash, then you put your asterisk over there. Then at the end of that comment, put another asterisk and a slash. And now it becomes a multi-line comment. And if you run it again, you can see that now it's considered to be a comment. And I believe this is something that is quite easy for you to do. It's not very complicated. And then once we get to more advanced videos, we shall see that this space between here and here is where our imported files appear, our imported libraries rather. And there are quite a number of libraries that we can be able to import. And we are going to see which ones and why we need them. So I want to end this basic video at that point. Please subscribe to the channel and click on the notification bell so that you are notified when we release our next video, in which you are going to learn more about creating more advanced programs. So in the next video, we are going to see how you can deal with variables, how you can deal with data types, and create programs that can be able to do some manipulation. And I hope to see you then.